Alright, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of InTheImageClothingCompany. Today is the 17th of December, 2025. This is a video on our main site, and I understand it. I'm going to address it first before we even get into this. The noise. We do it as we do. Blunt, bold, raw, and real in the Image Clothing Company style. First off, just in general, but especially these foundational videos as they are, it's kind of almost good to have them be a little bit noisy like this for the reasons of the videos yes, for a lot of reasons that I don't even fully understand yet, but I just understand that that's the case. I hear noise. I don't know exactly what it is. Not the road noise, something else. Anyway, this is Dante. He's hanging out with me. He's been pretty upset with me because I put him on the fence. Okay, so this video, the title is Internal Rotation from the Shoulder to the Foot. And let's talk about it, because what we do here on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company is we allow the body to work. We allow the human body to work, and we allow the bodies of dogs to work on In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, which is another one of our fourths, where we let dogs stay natural. The same thing, same approach, okay? The bodies, though, of both dogs and human beings, in this case, we can say it like that, have a center line, okay? The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw naturally stabilizing the entire body. All of these things have to stay in the center, on Earth's center of gravity, and there you go. We're called a clothing company, okay? In the Image Clothing Company, because anything that clothes the human beings or the dogs is clothing, okay? And our clothing needs to stay centered, fit correct, and we discuss where clothing sits for everybody, and in all the ways that we can have it be made from 100% natural materials. A lot of things are just new nowadays. Unnatural materials didn't even exist just decades ago from today's date, and stretch within clothing just didn't exist decades ago from today's date. The human body only pulls. A video here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, but also just the case. All musculature in the body just pulls two endpoints together. So we've got a function with opposing muscles, okay? One side of the function pulls to close something like a hinge joint, and then the other side of the function pulls to extend or open a hinge joint, okay? And that's just how everything in the body is there's two sides to it, and the human body just contracts its musculature. The only other end is relaxing. So stretching the body is damaging. I started to say the word damaging before I even said the word body, because it's very damaging. But people do it all the time, because if we've got an imbalance in contraction of musculature, then one side's excessively long or elongated and the other side is excessively short. Okay, there's just opposing muscles to everything in the body, okay? All the musculature of the body, well, in a sense, right, connects into the center line. What I mean by in a sense is certain muscles are outside of the body more than the center line, but muscles connect from the outside of the shoulder into the center in the sternum in the front, evenly on both sides, pulling, opposing the center line, and keeping us vertical, even, okay? Musculature connects from the outside of the shoulder, well, really from the shoulder blades, into the center of the spine in the rear of the body, evenly on both sides. And there's just two sides to things. As I say, as it is, no claim, no belief, no opinion. There truly is only one way the human body could ever work. It's just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. It's just got the functions it does. We've got videos talking about how there is only one way certain things work. There is only one way the hands work. There is only one way the feet work. Just because there's a neutral position and the bones connecting to bones through ligaments with a little layer of cartilage between them, and then the muscles just connecting to those bones through tendons, they just have to track in line. Otherwise, either there's just no motion that can happen, or we wear out the cartilage between the joints, and really the body just needs to reside in all the ways that we always can in its neutral positions in all of its functions. We've got videos like the natural scapula position here under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. The big bones on our upper backs are the scapulas or shoulder blades, and really they are the shoulder. They determine the motion of the shoulder along with this collarbone or clavicle here. We just pivot on the collarbone, and then the scapula is moving around the rib cage, and the humerus comes up and meets that. That's the upper arm bone. So those three bones meet, and we have a shoulder joint. The natural scapula position, the point is there's a natural, neutral, and normal workings, positioning to all things in the body, because there just is. That's how it works. Okay, there's meaning, since there's two sides to things, two sides to a function, like the shoulders, they can go up from their neutral or down from their neutral, directly correlating with the wrists, right? Up from their neutral or down from their neutral, front or back from the neutral, and rotations, internal versus external rotation at the shoulder from the neutral. This is how the body is, okay? The forearms from the fingertips to the elbow, they have their own internal versus external rotation from the thumb straight up and pinky fingers straight out, okay? With the arms bent, or thumb straight forward and pinky fingers straight down with the arms hanging down at our sides. Okay, the shoulders are the hands. We discussed this, how the hand is the shoulder and the foot is the hip. The body is just all connected. It can only ever work activated as a whole. Everywhere any of your body goes, all of it comes. And no compensation can happen in the body because everything has its own role to play. So something with a specific role can't compensate or make up for the work of something else with a specific role that's different. Okay. Yeah, there you go. The body has to work activated as a whole. Well, just because it naturally would, but there's just two sides to a function, and then we stabilize in the center or the neutral by one side contracting, pulling against the other side, and we just stay in the center. And that's how our bodies can stabilize, because we have to stabilize to stand. The jaw stabilizing the entire body is the shoulder. The jaw directly comes and connects to the outside of the shoulder through musculature and tendons, and there you go. Okay, so as well as the forearms rotations, the entire arm has, from the neutral, internal rotation, back to the neutral, and then external rotation. Yeah, I don't know what that sound is. I'm hearing a sound. Oh, I'm pretty sure what it is ice. There's a river here, and sometimes ice makes like this almost like sci-fi kind of sound. I'm pretty sure that's what that is ice like crackling. But there's also these big power lines up here. Could be electricity. It's like that kind of sound. Something similar to that. Anyway, the legs, in the lower legs, excuse me, Dante, look at the mud on my boots. These are the Zero Shoes Ridgeway model. In the lower leg, we have internal rotation from the neutral, and then external rotation from the neutral. That pinky toe, just like the pinky finger, is just straight forward, okay? The pinky finger is straight out from the outside of the forearm, just right down the end and outside of the arm. And that pinky toe, because we have different length toes, it points straight forward, and we roll off the end of our different length toes, so the feet roll in a little bit when we walk, okay? The entire leg has its own internal versus external rotation, okay? With the knee straight, locked out. And there's just only one way the human body could ever work. It's actually physically, legitimately, mechanically impossible to train the human body to do anything. You just can't train to a neutral. There's just two sides to everything in the body. We discussed how there's opposition in all things, like within the gospel of Jesus Christ, which we discuss on one of our fourths, right? In the Image Clothing Company podcast is one of the fourths to In the Image Clothing Company. We have deep discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things, just meaning it is, but no claim, no religion, no belief that you have to have because we're all human beings. We're all the same thing placed on the same earth. We're designed by the same God, and we just discuss him, Jesus Christ, as he says that he is, okay? We don't do it perfect, but we've been doing it as of today's date for 194 episodes, okay, of In the Image Clothing Company podcast as of today, the 17th of December, 2025. And it's awesome. It's a great place to just get some deep insights on life if you want to listen to them, okay? Yeah, we are all designed in the image of God, okay? In the image of Jesus Christ. That's where our company name comes from, okay? In the Image Clothing Company. Anything that clothes the body that's designed in the image of God, and so there's a universal human design, right? We learn the anatomy of the skeletal system and its functioning of the human being, and it applies to everybody, just like we discussed where clothing sits, and it applies to every body. I say it like that, right? Every body has one, or everyone has a body. There's only one way it works. Even if you've got an amputation, deformity, major surgery, birth defect, or anything like this that sets your body apart quite a bit or a little bit, there's only one way the body actually works. Baseline. And no matter what, we just have to get as close as we can in our own individualistic situations to the body's baseline only workings and functionings. Okay? So, what we've got here is the body. Only working how it does. There's only one way it could ever do anything. No matter who tries to tell you what or how much schooling or education they have on how the anatomy of the human body works, there's no opinion to possibly have, because you can't train to a neutral. It is impossible. Like Earth's gravity, when your arms hang down at your sides and just rest at the neutral gravity pull, well, that is the neutral arm, locked out at the elbow from the pinky finger all the way up to the shoulder capsule. There's a neutral height to the shoulder, a neutral front to back, and then just, neutrals in all the ways. It's physically impossible to train the body to get it to do anything. That's why our slogan is allowing the body to work here on In the Image Clothing Company's main side. That's the only end you can approach the human body on, is allowing it to function, okay? It's just a mechanical machine. If the operations aren't there, the operations aren't there. You're not going to get them to be there in a position where it's having to compensate through part of it, okay? There's just a neutral on Earth's surface. Earth's surface? I think I said Earth twice. There's a neutral, right, to the surface of the Earth, like the feet, from dorsiflexion to plantar flexion. We talk about the importance of zero drop shoes, the term. These are Zero Shoes, the brand, specifically here, and they're amazing. But any shoe that is the term zero drop, just meaning flat, like the surface of the ground we walk on, of the planet that God designed for us. We've got these man-made shoe designs. We've got a lot of man-made clothing. Stretch within clothing that didn't even exist just decades ago from today's date goes the opposite direction of the only way muscles work. So that's a lot of reason that would lead you to wanting to try to stretch your body, in addition to anything else that just causes imbalances that has one muscle tight and the other one loose. Well, chronically elongated, okay, versus chronically shortened. Because anyway, stretch is something your body can't work within, and it was something that couldn't even happen just decades ago. It's a new man-made thing, okay? But I did make a video just a couple days ago here under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company titled Chronically Short Muscles from Clothing. Because that's what happens, is you'll try to stretch the chronically short muscles, but muscles can only be short if their opposing side is long. So you stretch one side, but there's another side, and there's just a neutral between there. And each side of everything in the body, because the only way there's really any motion that could possibly happen, truly, the only way there is any motion is if there's two sides to it. And so, if one side's chronically short, that means there's something else that's chronically long. Okay, so with this video, yeah, this is big, right? The title is, like I said, internal rotation from the shoulder to the foot. Because a lot of times in life, we look at the body from bottom up because, yeah, we're on Earth's gravity. Okay? We talk about zero drop shoes, the term. We talk about In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. Half of the foot's function is lifting the toes, which is the top of the shoe. In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is just the only way the top of the foot is mechanically shaped, with those arches gripping inward, opposing the center line of the human body and keeping us vertical. And yeah, that's half the function. Lifting the foot from pointing the foot or plantar flexion, okay? So, In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is one of our 2 prerequisites, in addition to where we just discuss clothing sitting for everybody on the universal human design skeletal system, okay? It's cold, just to be clear, where I am. It's winter here in Utah County specifically. It's cold, okay? So, well, where I am right now at least. So, we've got the body, fairly obviously, if you know about gravity, working from bottom to top, just meaning our feet are supporting our whole bodies, and our bodies can very much get altered from the feet up, but the body's a kinetic chain, being just the mechanical machine that it is, meaning everything's connected in it and stacked. We've got bends to keep us vertical on Earth. No posture can be trained to. We're just on Earth's center of gravity with, quote, your center of gravity, unquote, as well, okay? A video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company there, your center of gravity has to mesh with Earth's center of gravity because we're just on the surface of the Earth. So what we've got is the ankles bending backward, the knees bending forward, the hips bending backward, the lower back, which is the lumbar spine, bending forward, the mid back or the thoracic spine bending backward, the upper back, if you will, really the cervical spine, which is actually our neck, okay, bends forward. And so we've got this front to back bending through the whole body from bottom to top, so that we have activation altering in musculature that only pulls, right? The human body only pulls. Muscles only just take the 2 endpoints they're connected to and pull them together. And some muscles are connected to multiple endpoints, okay? But they can only pull those endpoints where they connect to bones together. So, what we've got is the body having to have the top of it working for the bottom of it to work as well, okay? It's not only from bottom to top, the body will get affected throughout all of it from the top down. So, we talk about things like how oversized clothing makes life hard. It makes life very hard, okay? What we really do here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company is get out of chronic patterning and scar tissue that gets built up in the body, what people call bad posture, what people are trying to stretch out of with tight muscles. This is just the body working on one side of its neutral when there's another side to its neutral, okay? And all the functioning, because if we've got oversized clothing, imbalances in clothing at all, left to right, front to back, weight-wise, right? Or ropes introduced to the body is a big one. Shoelaces, drawstrings, anything around the waist, ribbons on dresses, apron knots, scarves around the neck. You just tie anything around the body in a rope with one side over the other, and we're twisting the entire body, and we live in this right-handed world. With 85%, give or take, of human beings being right-handed, we get into patternings where we're more rotated away from our bodies or external on the right side. The body will then drop lower and then be farther away from us okay, through the whole right side of the body. And this can happen from the foot up, it can happen from the hand down, and it can happen from the jaw, stabilizing the entire body. So we talk about things like eating and drinking with the left hand, a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here, because our jaw stabilizing our entire body needs, well, quote, the importance of even jaw musculature, unquote. A video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here as well. The musculature of our jaw that stabilizes our jaw needs to stay centered and even over our body's center line, over Earth's center of gravity. And as we eat, well, our mouth is opening, so we talk about the importance of the corners of the mouth, because as we're opening and closing our mouth, it's actually affecting the activation of musculature all over our entire head. And there's thin little muscles all over the skull of the human being. And then also just the jaw musculature will be different if the opening of the mouth is not in the center of the body, from, you know, just not being intentional when we're eating and altering the corners of our mouth through things like too large of utensils and unnatural materials that are just very sharp on the edges, through packaging of food in modern day. A lot of this stuff really damages the body, and these are the reasons we're actually having problems, not because you haven't been to the gym in however long it's been, and not because you're not stretching your body or doing your daily exercises. God designed the body to work, and there's only one way it ever could. It's just a mechanical machine. We really give the truth of it here under In The Image Clothing Company, and that's why we say so clearly to not believe us, because if you don't believe in anything, stuff's still got to be there, right? The only way you can have an opinion on something or believe something is or isn't something is if something's first there to have an opinion on, or if something's just first there to either believe in or choose not to, right? Even just the option of being able to believe in it is already there. There's just truth to life, okay? That's what I say, that when I say the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things, it really just is. It's just an explanation and a discussion on what this life is that we all have here, okay? And this body that we all have, okay? It just is what it is. So we couldn't decide the information that we give here as long as it's truth. No human being can decide truth. So that's what I mean when, you know, I say it like this sometimes, where everybody's got it wrong. If anyone, and myself included in that case, was trying to get the human body to do anything, it's impossible. It's a machine. It just connects immovable bones together, and the bones just move where they connect, you know. Yeah, anyway. I'm in this for life, right? Evan Strong, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, but leading this for my entire lifetime. That's why these foundational videos are just kind of how they are, and they're not anything else besides what they are, you know, because we'll just be discussing these things again and again and again and deeper and deeper and deeper as we go. But a lot of it's about the timestamp, you know, the date marking, and just the documentations. We do so much under the gift of video, and always will, as In The Image Clothing Company. We live up Utah, here in the state of Utah, the United States of America. We do a lot through video, in nature, and a lot with the dogs, okay? So I'll get to that if I get to talking about the other two sides of In The Image Clothing Company here in this video. But if not, just, you know, go find us where you find us. It's pretty cold, so let's get discussing the shoulder to the foot and how the body works from top to bottom, as well as it works from bottom to top. In both cases, it is what it is because everything has its own role to play. So what we've got is muscles supporting the shoulders. On top of the shoulders, really the muscle that lifts the shoulder, it's pretty much just one muscle that actually does the work. There's a lot of little muscles in and under the jaw, coming up through the neck. We've got a sternocleidomastoid muscle coming from the rear of the ear, off the side of the skull back here on both sides of the head, down, and then it splits off and connects to the sternum. and the collarbone, okay? Just clearing that rear lower jawbone, just barely. But really the only muscle that's doing the work to lift the shoulders, I mean, everything's playing into everything in the body, but it's these upper trapezius muscles. There's these muscles that are connecting on the top and the rear of the shoulder, coming across and then connecting to the spine of the neck, up the cervical spine or the spine of the neck, and then to the base and rear of the shoulder. No, the base and rear of the skull, okay? And that's this muscle, if you can see it, just right back here. It's the muscle of the rear of the neck, okay? Our shoulders just only work behind our head because muscles just pull two endpoints together. And like I said earlier, when I said sometimes there's three and sometimes there's maybe, actually, I don't know as of right now if there are muscles that have more than three insertions, but the upper trapezius, it's connecting to the top of the scapula and just the shoulder, and then the spine and the skull. And so when that muscle pulls to raise the shoulder, because we're actually pivoting on the collarbone at the sternum here in the center of the front of the body, that's actually how our shoulders are connected to our bodies structurally through bone, is that collarbone on the front, okay? That's the bone on the front that they're connected to the body with. We're just pivoting on this collarbone, okay? Oversized tops and the collarbone is a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. There's just a neutral height to the collarbone, okay? Angle of pivoting, because from the center of the sternum, the collar is from there up and out to the peak of the edge of the shoulder, meeting the scapula and the upper arm bone, okay, becoming the shoulder joint. That's where the edge seams of our tops need to sit as close as they can to, because that's just where the functionality of the joint is. So we need to be able to have the joint of material at the same location if we can, and as close as we can to as the joint of the body, okay, at the shoulder. Now, what we've got, you're doing good, Dante, good boy. What we've got is internal rotation as half of the body's rotation at the shoulder capsule or the shoulder joint, right, from external rotation. So if we put our arms forward and we have our thumbs pointing up, like reaching our arms out in front of our bodies, and we rotate our thumbs in, that's internal rotation. Putting them back with our thumbs pointing up, that's neutral. Rotating our thumbs out, that's external rotation. And this is happening from the tip of the fingers up to the shoulder capsule, or shoulder joint, shoulder socket. It's not really so much a socket, it's just three bones meeting, okay, with a lot of musculature coming in to stabilize that shoulder joint, okay? And what we have is that internal rotation. It's coming from elevation or lifting of the shoulder, because the scapula is just determining the shoulder's position on the back side of the body, as well as the collarbone determining the shoulder's position on the front side of the body. Just kind of moving around the rib cage is what that scapula or the shoulder blade is doing on the rear of the body. What we have is, as the upper trapezius muscle contracts or shortens, does the only thing muscles in the body do to work, right? Pulls the endpoints together. Where the endpoints are and how the shoulder moves by pivoting on the collarbone, the shoulder comes up and in. Just picture this arc of the collarbone's motion, and that's happening from the muscle pulling from out at the outside of the shoulder into the spine and up to the base of the skull, okay, the spine of the neck here. This is the upper trapezius muscle doing this motion and pivoting this collarbone up and in, okay? And there you go. that's how we lift our shoulders. And we're not lifting our shoulders straight up. We're actually going up and in because of the collarbone, okay? It's just a arc motion, pivoting from the sternum out to the edge of the shoulder. There you go, okay? Because the body's about the skeletal system. The only reason we need musculature is to move the skeletal system that has to already be there for the muscles to attach to it, okay? Through tendons, at the end point, insertions, pulling together. The human body only pulls, okay? So what we've got is internal rotation from the shoulder to the foot. If we've got uneven shoe tying of ropes on our feet that we just call shoelaces, then we'll never have just an even rotation from the foot up to the hip, okay? Just because we're tying one side of a rope over the other with a knot, with shoelaces. So in the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, right, we tie shoes evenly over toward the center line of the body on both feet. Because the feet roll inward toward the center line of the body, because we've got different length toes that are kind of like an arrow from the pinky toes out and back, up and in to the big toes. And there you go, rolling evenly off the ends of our different length toes. The feet kind of come in, and that's just how the body stays neutral, designed to work. If we never, well, designed to work is an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. God designed the human body just to function like all the animals, okay? Animals don't do workouts and stretches to try to get their body to work. They just work, okay? So if we never wore clothing, and if we didn't live in this modern man-made world with a lot of things that are altering and damaging our bodies that we just didn't deal with as human beings in the past, the body would just work of the human body, just as animals do. Of the human being is what I mean. But yes, the human body. So we've got rotations at the foot that can travel up to the shoulder, but since the body's all connected, the shoulder has to be working for the foot to be working. Internal rotation from the shoulder to the foot, even though gravity essentially affects our bodies from the bottom up, because we're standing on the earth with our feet supporting us first, and then we travel up when we're thinking about gravity's pull on the body. But it's just pulling on the body. The feet are just the things supporting. The whole body is being pulled down though with gravity, and the shoulder, just as everything in the body, has that neutral height, the neutral contraction to all its function, because there's opposing muscles. So what we have to have is internal rotation. And what happens when we get internal rotation is elevation of the shoulder. Because since internal rotation is closer to the body's center line, and muscles only pull, and muscles connect from the outside of the shoulder in to the spine, and that muscle specifically is the upper trapezius that we were just discussing here a minute ago. As it contracts, pulling up to support the shoulders so the feet can do their job, the body working as a whole, it also pulls in, connecting to the base of the skull. It's pulling up from the shoulder, but it's also connecting to the spine in the center of the body, pulling in from the shoulder, okay? So that's where we get that internal rotation. There's also other muscles going into it for sure, but for the sake of showing how this is coming from the shoulder and going down to the foot, and for the sake of getting through all the discussion of this that I can, being so cold, and depending on battery percentage and things of the device, especially in the cold, the battery tends to die quicker in the cold than it otherwise would. And Dante is out here too. He's fine. He's got a nice coat on. But I'm not going to discuss all of the musculature that could possibly be playing into internal rotation, but there's a lot happening to internally rotate the shoulder that will then travel down to the foot, and its ability to internally rotate as well. Excuse me, boy, I need a little bit more room here. Okay, we have opposing muscles. So essentially the opposing pull, without saying directly which muscle is opposing which muscle right here, just so that I don't kind of like say it's only this, but this is the case, right? The latissimus dorsi muscle connecting from the upper part of the rear of the upper arm bone here, and it connects there, comes down the back, connects to some of the lower vertebrae of the spine, and then to the crest or top of the pelvis or the hip structure in the rear. That muscle pulls the shoulder down. Okay, muscles only pull, the human body only pulls. The two endpoints, well, again, three actually in this case, like the upper trapezius, there's three endpoints here. The rear of the upper arm bone, the humerus, down to the top of the pelvis, and then in to the low vertebrae of the spine. That's that pull or contraction of the latissimus dorsi muscle, spans the whole back. There's one on each side of the body. It's a really big muscle, okay? So it's pulling down, back, and in. The upper trapezius is pulling up, back, and in. So that's why I'm saying they're not exactly directly opposing muscles, but the upper trapezius is pulling up, the latissimus dorsi is pulling down. So this is what we have to have happen. In order for this collarbone to pivot up and in, we have to have that latissimus dorsi muscle relax to be able to come up with the shoulder where the top end insertion of that latissimus dorsi muscle is, and have that be able to come up and in. So elongating the latissimus dorsi, shortening the upper trapezius, then the collarbone pivots up and in, just because that's how it connects from the outside of the shoulder into the sternum, is where that bone of the collarbone is. So it just pivots up and in, and now we've got elongation of the latissimus dorsi, contraction of the upper trapezius, and that brings our arm closer to our bodies, just because we have this pivoting up and in, and the end point of the collarbone that's pivoting up and in out at the outside of the body is just that shoulder joint. The hand is the shoulder, hanging just straight down at its neutral with gravity. No possible way to train to gravity's neutral pull of the end point of the shoulder, which is the fingertips directly. And so the fingertips follow exactly where the collarbone goes. There's no way they couldn't. If you lock your elbow out straight, your entire arm is just one stick, pole, basically. No motion to it. And now, wherever your collarbone goes, your fingertips do the exact same thing. There's no motion if we completely straighten our arm from the shoulder all the way out to the fingertips. And there you go, okay? So when we talk about how clothing truly is the only fix to human beings' physical problems, at least the physical problems we discuss as in the Image Clothing Company, it's the case. No possible opinion. And what I've been given by God is the ability to speak so well. I do that so much through In the Image Clothing Company podcast, here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, when I'm able to discuss really what's going on anatomy-wise in the body. Anatomy-wise in the body. It's very cold out here. You can probably see some snow. Yeah. Some of those mountains back there behind this ridge here, you can see. But it's I don't know how cold, but cold. Okay, probably not quite freezing temperatures, but still, just for being in a long sleeve t-shirt with a short sleeve t-shirt over it, it's cold. Dante's fine, but I'm chilly. So anyway, sorry buddy, I noticed that earlier, but I didn't get his leash out from under his leg there a few minutes ago when I saw it while I was discussing what I was. But there you go, boy. We've got the entire body working bottom to top or top to bottom. Oh yeah, but I just, on In The Image Clothing Company music, a lot of what we do is show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter the body, like the neutral wrist, right? Just keeping the wrist in line. But also just something we discuss in all aspects of life is just the rounding to our hands, correlating with the arches in our feet. Like I'm saying here, the body gets affected bottom to top on Earth's gravity as much as it gets affected top to bottom. And really the fingertips are the top of the body, not the tip of the head, because if we raise our arm above our head, that's really the farthest away point from our fingertips is the toes, okay? Not the tip of the head to the toes. So what we do have though is lyricism, rhythm and poetry, spoken word, singing, guitar playing, music geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with the messages on In The Image Clothing Company music. And there's a lot of beautiful stuff that just gets had there through music. I'm very musical as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. So yeah, each of the four sides of In The Image Clothing Company mesh into each other, right? They all kind of like bleed over to the other sides. And all that we do with the poodles on In The Image Clothing Company poodles bleeds over to all three of the other sides as well. Just all of the sides, right? They're all meshed. And so they're just very intentional is what I mean. Just to give an explanation right now, I guess, on why there's four sides to a clothing company. Wow, look at the sun come out right when I said that. Yeah, the poodles, the music, the human body, and which is really clothing, and then the podcast on the gospel of Jesus Christ. All four sides, they're intertwined, okay? All four sides of In The Image Clothing Company. And so, okay, let's continue to talk about this physicality of the body, internal rotation from the shoulder to the foot, because arches in the feet grip inward, but we're over Earth's center of gravity. So if our hand is out to the outside of our body's center of gravity, our foot will have to go off to the outside of the body to just compensate for the weight to keep our bodies over Earth's center of gravity, stepping outside of our own body's center line to stay in our body's own center of gravity. But since the arch in the foot grips inward from the outside of it, you just have to start from the outside to pull in. The pinky toes are the shortest. And so we need to keep our heels on the ground so that we can actually keep that pinky toe gripping the ground, to have a contact point from the heel to the toe to pull in. And then as the arch in the foot grips, it pulls back and in, just because we've got different length toes coming up and into the center line of the body. And yeah, then we have that neutral pinky toe straight forward. Just because of different length toes, we grip an arch, and it just lines up, because God designed the body and He's perfect. He doesn't make mistakes, and so there's just a length to toes that just allows us to go forward, pointing our feet the direction we're going. Straight forward from that pinky toe is the neutral, okay? Like I showed, from internal rotation to external rotation, the neutral is the pinky toe straight forward, okay? And then, with those arches gripping inward, they're only going to do that if they can support our bodies. So if our bodies are off to the side of us, well, first of all, the upper trapezius muscle that we were discussing it for the sake of it being the highest muscle that's really doing the bulk of the work to raise the shoulder, because there are a lot of muscles going into the shoulder. There's a mid trapezius, a lower trapezius. There's musculature between the shoulder blades as well. That's not just those trapezius muscles like rhomboids. There is connecting from the scapula or shoulder blades to the spine is the point, okay? There's what's called a rotator cuff, okay? A group of muscles connecting from in the shoulder capsule where these three bones are meeting. the collarbone, the upper arm bone, which is the humerus, and then the shoulder blade or the scapula, the peak of it, there's this little part that comes up and over called the acromion. This all meets at the shoulder capsule to have functionality in the shoulder. And we've got a rotator cuff, is what it's called, a group of a few muscles going from the shoulder back into the scapula. And that's where a lot of that stabilization and rotations in the shoulder are coming from, okay? Is little muscles in that rotator cuff. Okay, so what I'm saying is I'm putting the focus on the upper trapezius because it's clear to see the insertion points. It pulls up and in. So our arms need to rest at our own sides, right? If you've got oversized tops, it's windy out here, okay? If you've got oversized tops, you're not gonna have your arm resting at your side because we're just pivoting on the collarbone, and the collarbone is the edge of the shoulder, and so the shoulders follow shoulder seams just being placed on our bodies. That's why the peak of the shoulders is where our top seams sit behind, okay? Top seams of clothing sit evenly behind the peak of the shoulders because since the shoulders just connect to the spine and the base of the skull behind the head, the shoulders only ever work behind the head. Otherwise, we've just got compensation of muscles throughout the body and rotations and functions throughout the body. If our shoulders aren't behind our head, hi buddy, you're doing good, boy. And so, sorry, I kind of need you in the face a little bit there. Just a little bit. We know what we're talking about here. You know, it's obvious. And that is a gift that I don't have to try to convince anybody, because I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything here. As the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, we don't have any new information. This is the same information, not only since the first man, Adam, but since God, because in order for God to design Adam in his image, God had to first look like us. And so the human body's always been what it is. It could never be anything else, and it just never will change. Well, God, Jesus Christ, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, okay? Don't let me tell you something. That's what he says in his word. So don't believe me on anything, but that's what I'm saying is, it's obvious because you couldn't dispute it. But it's nothing to do with me because it's not even my choice or decision or information. I've been placed in such a beautiful place here as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. That's how this is, you know, set up for success. A permanent, lifelong, well, eternal, really, company. Clearly a company, not a business, right? It's a company or a community. Yeah, I mean, there's no way that this couldn't be always successful. There's no opinion to it. There's only one way the human body could ever work. What I'm saying right now is just my gratitude for being able to explain it so well. It's amazing that I can do this. I'm just standing out here on the side of the mountain, pretty cold, with my buddy Dante, beautiful poodle boy. Okay, In The Image Clothing Company Poodles is a fourth of In The Image Clothing Company. We specialize in purebred standard poodles, but we give information on letting dogs stay natural that applies to all dogs, and really most all animals would apply, you know, would benefit from the information we give under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles with letting essentially just animals stay natural. Yeah, okay, in the modern man-made world we live in, they have to deal with stuff that we have to deal with, and they're getting altered as well, if and where they are. If we're not intentional, when we take an animal under our own ownership and care as a human being, we have to do all that we can to not alter its only functionality, you know, in all the ways. We discuss all the things of just the life forms that we discuss, you know, just how they work. They're God's design. That's how we allow the body to work of the human being, because God designed it so we can allow it to work. We don't get to choose, but we can learn about it and let it do its thing. We can let dogs stay natural because God designed them, so we don't have a choice, but we can be intentional, okay, and helpful to these beautiful animals that we have. Oh, bud, you are a really good boy. He was pretty upset with me. I put him like probably like 10 feet back at first, and he was like 8 feet from me, and he was just upset about it, and so I moved him. He was only upset because he wants to be by me, you know. So I felt bad. I kind of yell at him, you know, but he's only upset or like disobeying because he wants to be by me. I'll like tell him to wait, and I'm just gonna be back in like seconds or minutes in this, you know, case, and he's just all upset because he wants to be right next to me. It makes me upset because I only want to have you wait just because I got to do something. I want you next to me too, you know. It's like, anyway, he's awesome, Dante. Okay, we've got poodles, right? Here in the state of Utah, the United States of America, we live up Utah, like I said, as in the Image Clothing Company and all 4 sides. But we'll do what's called poodle parade events. We'll get people into nature and dogs into nature, and bring your poodles, purebred of any size or poodle mixes of any size. It'll just be great. You know, certain subcategory poodle parade events like Clean the Creek or Rid the Rubbish poodle parade events under In the Image Clothing Company poodles, things for the environment to actually pick up, you know, garbage and trash and litter and contaminants, if you will. There's a lot we do as In the Image Clothing Company, and that's what's so beautiful about it, is we're put in a position where, me being as prideful as I am, I couldn't possibly take credit for it. And that's what I personally need. God knows exactly what we need, okay? Individually. He knows it's perfect. He's the all-knowing. He's the creator of all things. His name is Jesus Christ. Check out In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and don't believe me, okay? So, he looks like a lion, Dante here. His little tail and his big mane. Ah, buddy. Big lion doggy. It's not all that big, really. But I keep calling him big boy, even though he's not very big to me. I'm 6'2" tall, though. That's a lot of what we discuss on In the Image Clothing Company poodles, is the sizing of dogs, the height of dogs versus the height of owners, so that we don't alter our bodies to get to our dogs. It's ideal to have the ideal sized dog for you in all the ways that we can. And, you know, holding leashes naturally so that our bodies don't get altered as well, right? And then, you know, just a lot of things we discuss, because a lot of free modifications that we give in human being clothing, not only we can give them, I guess I can say they can translate into dogs as well, but we just do give modifications for dog products as well, right? Things like keeping collars centered, we discuss that. There's just the opposing musculature going through the collar of the top, but dogs are the same. You know, their jaw is stabilizing their entire body, and they have the same things: the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and then the jaw. They work very similarly, even though dogs are horizontal and human beings are vertical, with the way that they are standing, like at the spine at least, right? So anyway, what we have is the body. Okay, so human being clothing and dog products and whatever else we branch out into as time progresses, if under InTheImageClothingCompany.com is where that will always be, okay? All of what we do on all 4 sides of In the Image Clothing Company just comes down to our one-word company name. It's kind of 5 words, but really there's no spaces between them. In the Image Clothing Company. So traveling from the shoulder down to the foot with the internal rotation, really, since the shoulder is essentially the hand, we're talking about the hand before we're talking about the shoulder if we're talking about the foot's internal rotation. okay? A lot of people have a really hard time getting their wrists to come in, and mine are cold. My hands and my wrists and my whole body. Yeah, okay. So I have a little bit less dexterity now than I naturally would if it wasn't as cold as it is, right? If it was just a more, closer, if it was closer to my body's temperature out here, or more like room temperature, if you will, out here, right? Anyway, people have a hard time getting their wrists to come in, especially on the right side of the body, because if the foot is stuck in external rotation, you'll never get your wrist in, because again, just traveling up, you can't get your shoulder in unless you get your foot in, because we're just on Earth's gravity. And that's just how it works, okay? Mechanically, physically, meaning like physics, right? That's just how it works. The body's just a machine. It's just physical operations is all it is. Truly, that's it. At all. I mean, that's it. So you have to get your foot in to get your hand in, but if you can't get your hand in, right, as opposed to the hand like being outside of your body's center line, if you can't really reach and have your hand have all of its motion from both sides of that neutral pinky finger straight forward, okay, or straight down or straight out from the forearm is the point. If the hand can't come into the body, like from the thumb in, okay, at the hand, then, well, your hand is your shoulder. And so if you can't get your hand in, you'll never get your shoulder in. The shoulder coming in is the shoulder elevating. The shoulder elevating is elongating the latissimus dorsi, connecting to the pelvis or the hips. And then from there, if that latissimus dorsi muscle is chronically short, because from the hand up to the shoulder, or just the shoulder itself from shoulder seams, right? We've got videos like the importance of the same size hands, and we talk about fingernails and toenails just fully to the tips of the fingers and toes, cut relatively flat on the tip so we don't roll out of the neutral wrist or that neutral gripped arch position. Yep, okay. But the fingernails and toenails are just given to us by God to give us our natural strength and back the fingers and toes. If we cut them too short, we're just not going to have the natural strength that we just otherwise have. Okay? And so, you're doing good, Dante. I'm sorry I had you so far away from me. Because I started filming this, I got into like a minute of it, and he just started barking and barking. He was back there by that shirt that's on the ground. I'll probably sit down there on that shirt to show some things mechanically, as long as we've got time. Like I'm saying, with the battery percentage is really the thing. I've got enough storage space for this right now on this device, but if the battery dies, right, if it just cuts me off and you can tell I didn't mean to cut it, it was something like that happened. Okay, battery percentage dying in the device, probably if, okay. There's a lot to this video. This could be a big discussion. I can sit down over there and show some things from the shoulder to the foot with the internal rotation. So that's the intention with the shirt on the ground, even though it's muddy. It is what it is. And this is a good dog. He is such a good dog. Okay, so what we have is the pelvis positioning from posterior, tucked all the way underneath us, to anterior, rotated, kind of like falling forward in the front in a sense. Okay, we've got just two sides to the pelvis from the neutral, okay, on Earth's gravity, and from our body's own center line, just vertically. Okay, so the latissimus dorsi connecting to the rear of the pelvis and the top, it'll pull the pelvis up from the rear, and really it'll be doing that if the shoulder isn't pulling up. Okay, If the shoulders are excessively dropped, that's meaning the latissimus dorsi is excessively tight, okay? The upper trapezius contracting to raise the shoulder elongates the latissimus dorsi, and now in this position we can get fully posterior with the pelvis's tuck. If the shoulder drops by elongating the upper trapezius, just because the muscle that's doing the opposing function to the upper trapezius raising the shoulder is the latissimus dorsi pulling the shoulder down, with the elongation of the upper trapezius, that means a contraction or a shortening of the latissimus dorsi. So this takes our pelvis anterior, right, rotating forward, if you will, like away from us, down in the front and up in the rear from its neutral. And on the other end of the neutral, from anterior, there's posterior. There's a lot of motion to the pelvis naturally, but it has to come from the shoulder down. Even though we're on Earth's gravity, going from the feet up, essentially, the body does still get affected from the top down just the same, because it's all connected. It's just a mechanical machine. Regardless of gravity, if we didn't have gravity, the body is just a mechanical machine either way. Gravity is just the thing we deal with, being placed on Earth through our mechanical machine that is the human body. Okay? How deep of a discussion do you want? How real can it be heard when I say don't believe me? You don't need to. Truth is truth. How real can it be when we discuss how there is just universal truth to life, and I could not possibly decide the actual fact truly in all actuality that there's no possible way to train the human body to get it to do anything. It's just a mechanical machine. Like I said, immense gratitude to God, Jesus the Christ, for the ability for me to explain these things as thoroughly as I am able to. There's not many people who know how the body works the way that, not because of me, but the way that I, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, deeply know the body. I mean, most people have got a lot of it incorrect. No matter how much schooling they've gone to, or no matter how much more they know the anatomy of the human body, like can label functions of things and names of muscles and bones, and yeah, it only works how it works though, regardless of the terminology. It's just gonna work unless it's unable to, not allowed to. Okay? You're doing so good, boy. You're doing so good. You're so patient. He is an amazing dog. He's amazing. Okay? So, what we have now, if the upper trapezius is excessively elongated, well, the opposing pull from the upper trapezius is what that latissimus dorsi is doing. And now we've got an excessive shortened latissimus dorsi, okay, which is an anterior pelvis. And now from the anterior pelvis, traveling down the body, the feet are just going to stick out into external rotation because the arches grip inward, and as they do, it tucks the pelvis underneath us, because the feet gripping arches is the musculature pulling and activating. And the body works activated as a whole. So activating the feet activates the legs traveling up, which activates the pelvis, tucking our pelvis posterior underneath us just to be more vertical on Earth's gravity, so that our body uses less energy to just keep us standing than if the pelvis were to be anterior and we've got excessive bends and everything in the body traveling up. We want to just be as vertical as we just would naturally be, with still having slight bends in musculature just to keep them activated, right? With the opposing muscles from each function, there's just activation happening on both sides to stabilize, just very slightly bent into ranges of motion in the body. It's just how the body would naturally work. it's impossible to train posture. No claim, no belief, no opinion, nothing to do with me, no new information. God's truth, the same sense forever. The same sense God, okay? Not only the same sense Adam, the same sense God, which is always. There's only one way the human body could ever work. So traveling down from the shoulder, lacking its internal rotation, from an elongated upper trapezius, we have a tightened latissimus dorsi, we have an anteriorly rotated pelvis, and then traveling down, we just have altered things through the legs down to the feet. I don't want to get into discussing all of that right now because I want to show this, if I can, sitting down on this shirt here, okay? Because this will be able to, this will show you something really great in a deeper range of motion. And let's do that right now. I'm gonna be right here, Dante. Okay, when our shoulder lifts, the foot grips in, okay? Just remember that collarbone pivoting in as it comes up, the foot grips in as it, well, comes up, right? The height of a gripped arch, a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, the foot arch pulling back and in from the toes to the heel. With the different length toes, it just comes back and in when the muscles activate. That grips, yes, inward, more underneath our own center of gravity, from the center line of our actual body's physical center, okay? In your center of gravity, okay? Individually, as a human being in the body. Now, collarbone pivoting up and in, foot arch gripping up and in at the same time, okay? Latissimus dorsi elongating, and that's what I'm going to discuss as far as functionality on that for right now. Just to give the understanding, it has to start clear up at the shoulder before it can ever get to the foot when we're talking about internal rotation. When we sit down, this same position is happening, but we're just deeper into ranges of motion. That's why I'm not really discussing the whole legs right now while I'm standing up. I might not really do it down here. We'll see how much I discuss more throughout this, because the point is what I'm showing, okay? Watch, I guess. This is hard to even put into words because of how huge it is. It's like almost emotionally hard. It's just the truth, okay? Just gravity, okay? Internal rotation at the foot starts at the shoulder. I'm gonna sit down here. When we cross our legs to sit down, what are we doing? Internally rotating our feet. Gripping an arch in, that's how we open the hips, and it posteriorly tucks the pelvis. Like I said, just happens when the feet grip in. It tucks the pelvis because that's just the activation of muscles. Now we're more vertical. The same positioning is happening when we're into a deeper range of motion because it's the same mechanics, it's just got a deeper bend when we're sitting down, but it's the same gripped arch in the foot even when our legs are crossed. It's the same position through the whole body. Watch this. Can you come over here a little bit, boy? Can you come right there? Good boy. Right over here. I want them to be able to see the visual if they can. Okay, so what we've got is, hey, you're muddy. Come over here. We've got the pelvis tucking posterior is what's happening. When we're sitting down on the ground, you go from a standing position to just tucking your pelvis to sit down, right? If the pelvis goes anterior, you'll fall forward. When you sit down, you tuck your pelvis underneath you and you kind of go backward a little bit. okay? Tucking your pelvis, gripping your feet arches, and elongating the latissimus dorsi. So what needs to be able to happen is the elongation of the latissimus dorsi. And that only comes from, well, the position I'm in right now. Raising the shoulders as we internally rotate. It's so real. I was already in the position. That's what I'm saying. Internally rotating the entire arms tucks the pelvis posterior. It elongates the latissimus dorsi and it raises the upper trapezius, pivoting up on that collarbone. That's how our feet can come in. That's how our legs are really open. That's how we sit on the ground cross-legged. It's just the same position. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's just a mechanical machine. It's either locked out in its full range of motion, or it's all the way bent in its full range of motion. And either way, or anywhere in between, there's just two sides to functions, and it has to happen. Clothing is the only thing physically placed on you. It's just not gonna allow it to happen. I think the point is, I'm not gonna sit in the mud. I gotta get back in the car. I gotta get him in the car too. And if I sit down, he might lay in the mud and get dirtier than he already is. He's just such a good boy. He hasn't even laid down. He's just sitting nicely. He just stands so calmly. If I get down, he'll probably get more dirty. He'll probably get his paws on me. Then I'll just get that shirt more dirty than it is, since I just laid it on the mud lightly. I would sit down cross-legged, but I can just show the same thing, basically just did, but I can do it here standing. Cross-legged, look at my foot, right? Gripping an arch internally. Now I have a tucked pelvis and I can open my hip all the way. Well, yeah, see, standing is the same thing. That's what I'm saying. It's the same thing mechanically. Tuck the pelvis all the way posterior. You open your hips as much as they can. Just the shape of the bones coming up of those upper legs, the femurs. It comes in with that ball at the top of the femur that meets in the socket or the acetabulum of the hip. That's in a posterior tuck, all the way posterior underneath us, tucked with the pelvis, front coming up and the rear coming down of the pelvis, which only happens if the shoulders can raise to elongate the latissimus dorsi, because the latissimus dorsi shortening would actually close the hips off, going down, collapsing the arches in the feet, and externally rotating the feet, okay? But we need good internal rotation of the feet in order to cross the legs. It's just the position. It's essentially just like if you grip an arch as far as you could go, like as far in from the neutral versus out or collapsed with the arch, rolling your foot up and in is posteriorly tucking the pelvis, internally rotating the foot, gripping that arch well. We've got this really open body now. Now we can sit on the ground cross-legged, elongating that latissimus dorsi muscle, but that has to start from the shoulder being able to raise. Otherwise, you're not gonna get your foot gripped all the way in and across your body if your shoulder is dropped and away from your body, just because the angle of that pivot of the collarbone dropping down, it goes out. You're never going to get your foot gripped all the way, just neutral even, if your shoulder's dropped, and you're especially never going to get it across your body to sit in a cross-legged position on the ground unless you can lift your shoulder, just because mechanically it's the entire body. That's where we'll leave this for this discussion. Good boy. Dante has been amazing in this video. Sorry that I got upset at you, boy. I was kind of yelling at him, he just wasn't being all that patient with me as I was trying to set up for this video. I wasn't just kind of yelling at him, I was upset. I was big time upset with him. But, we got through this video, the discussion's been such a deep one on this. I'm so grateful for it. I didn't actually end up sitting on the shirt, so it's still relatively clean. He's stayed nice and clean. I mean, really, he has. You are such a good dog. Oh my gosh. He's wonderful. Okay, so there you go. Today, like I said, is the date that I said that it was, because that's the date that it is. It's the 17th of December, 2025. It's a Wednesday. As long as that really is the 17th. I'm pretty sure it's the 17th. I know it's Wednesday. Pretty sure yesterday was the 16th. I filmed some videos yesterday. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was good. It was great. He was in one of them. I filmed a video titled, "You Don't Need to Baby Your Body," under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here, over at Utah Lake. And this beautiful boy was with me in that video as well, okay? So we're based in St. George, Utah, as In The Image Clothing Company. So living up Utah, it's a beautiful red rock desert down there. It looks a lot like this, actually. Utah is so diverse, but a lot of different parts of Utah look very similar as well. So there you go. There's your context. A true desert down there. I just need to move down there as of me saying it right now, as of today's date. And then, yeah, that's where we'll be. That's where In The Image Clothing Company's team will be. All of the poodles that we house, right? Because we'll breed purebred standard poodles. A lot of what we do is advocating for proper breeding, proper ownership of dogs, taking accountability as the owner of dogs. The health of dogs is why we advocate for purebred dogs, keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes through all these things that we do for In The Image Clothing Company poodles, okay? As 1/4 of In The Image Clothing Company. Just gratitude immensely. It's been a fight, it's been a battle just to get where I am with this as of today's date. It's been so much to go through. It has been ridiculous. Physically, my own body, you're able to see, as I say, my body's physical and visual transformation since the founding date, or any video ever, yeah. But yes, the founding date of In The Image Clothing Company, which was the 23rd of September 2024, to any current or most current date you could find any documented footage under, as we say, the gift of video. It's a gift for this reason, right, as one of the many. You can just see how my body has changed, getting out of chronic patterning and scar tissue, which is what we do here on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. That's really how we, boil down what we actually do here physically for the body into like a simple explanation of what we do. That if you get out of all the chronic stuff built up in your body, chronic just meaning permanent until fixed, or life lasting until addressed, but just functioning in the body that's been damaged for a time, years, decades, a lifetime. If we can rid these problems, break up scar tissue and bone spurs that get built up in the body in certain locations, especially the right side of the body in this right-handed world. If you're left-handed, you still live in a right-handed world. You just truly do. But the patternings could be reversed for left-handed people. But that's the point, is gravity. The point is, if we're dominant on one side, we won't be centered. The point as well, though, is a lot of the free modifications we give in clothing, because there's so much in clothing that just didn't happen in the past. Things like In The Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification. We have a lot of modifications. There's just a few that I mentioned most commonly that are the most common, and it just makes sense to reference, in the times that I do. So anyway, we do a lot. When we talk about where clothing sits, it's just a baseline explanation, and we get really in depth with it. Clothing for everybody, man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. We're all just human beings. The pants that we wear have to be entirely above the hips, above the hip bones, but below those lowest ribs is what's called our natural waist. That's where we bend side to side at the spine. You can't bend side to side at the hips without lifting a leg off the ground. So we actually need to be able to have all the motion in our bodies by having our pants at our natural waist, regardless of body shape. like the way you carry fat or musculature. It's about the universal skeletal system's physical mechanical operations. There's only one way it could ever work. Okay? Like physics-wise, levers, hinges, rotations, the human body just being the machine that it is. The tops that we wear, I discussed where they sit already in this. But the pants, they need to be slightly higher in the front than the rear with the waistband angle. It could be exactly even horizontal on Earth's gravity's surface of the Earth, you know, Earth's pole of gravity, horizontal, okay? But we do things in front of us in life, and our pelvis will then go anterior. We're reaching forward with our hands, we're walking forward, we're bending forward at the hips, and we need our pants to never drop lower in the front, otherwise they're just not even on Earth's gravity. And if they're higher in the front, that's just more posterior. That's the body just being even more vertical, more stacked on Earth's gravity. So that's why we have pants sit where we do. I'll mention tops again though. I did say it in this, but I'll just say it right here with pants while I'm just discussing where clothing sits, okay? Under In The Image Clothing Company, we show this. It's for everyone, okay? Top seams sit evenly behind the peak of the shoulders. The shoulders just follow the shoulder seams because they're just physically placed on us on Earth's gravity. And the shoulders only ever work behind the head, as we discussed. That's just where they mechanically connect. It's about the skeletal system's function, okay? No opinion. That's just how it is. No fashion, no claim, no information that could ever change. Just how the bones connect, okay? The edges of the tops need to be as close as we can get right to the edge of the shoulder. Again, it's just where the bones connect, okay? And then I mentioned In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique as one of our 2 prerequisites in addition to where clothing sits to just not alter the body. Secondly, we remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag is placed in clothing, first of all, it's just new, just decades ago from today's date. It didn't exist before. It became a legal thing because of all these unnatural materials. People have reactions to artificial, synthetic, synonyms with fake, right? Unnatural materials placed onto their bodies. The materials themselves can just seep into the pores of the bodies the way we place a topical cream on the surface of our skin to heal our bodies from the inside out. Unnatural things can damage our bodies from the inside out by seeping into the skin placed onto us, and this is in our clothing a lot of the time in modern day, at least a lot of clothing that people design, okay? They make it out of unnatural materials, but we don't know what we don't know. You can't be held accountable for what you don't know. We don't know all of these things that are damaging us if we just don't know. Tags either cause a physical gap, changing the body's only working positions, okay? And or they just don't allow musculature to activate. And then compensation tries to happen in the body, and it just can't. Like we have said here, and it's just the truth, not that we have said it, that doesn't matter. It's just truth. Truth is apart from all of us. The human body can only ever work activated as a whole. So when the body's trying to do compensation for things not working within it, that's where the chronic patterning really gets built up and the scar tissue. Just trying to work around things, you know. So, there you go, okay? Shout out to Dante. Shout out to Spanish Fort Canyon. Shout out to Living Up Utah, as in the Image Clothing Company. Shout out to that bird up there. It made a sound again after I said that. Pretty big bird flying up there. Okay, there you go. I'm in this for life. I am in this for life. I am in this for life. I say that just to make it clear. All that we have already done as of today's date, we're just a little over 14 and a half months into the founding of In The Image Clothing Company. I have been the sole human being who has done anything. Once In The Image Clothing Company's team builds, and once we get our poodles situated the way that we do, and have events happening, and when it comes, our building down there in St. George, Utah, it won't be a building for people to come into that aren't in the Image Clothing Company's team, but we'll do so much under the gift of video in our building with the poodles, with just explanations. We'll always have all 4 sides of In The Image Clothing Company, so check it out. In The Image Clothing Company podcast is such a huge thing. It's where we stay rooted and grounded and remember how we're even able to do this, and it just is what it is, and my heart is just in it for the dogs, for the poodles specifically, purebred standard poodles. which isn't necessarily exactly what Dante is, by the way, just for some context. He's not quite standard size, and I don't know for certain if he's purebred, just where he came from. We don't have his papers from birth, so just context on Dante for this video. But he's awesome. He's amazing. Okay. But anyway, you're a good boy. You're a good doggy, buddy. You've just been so good through this whole video, dude. He's just good like this always. At least since, you know, all the time. Yeah, yes. Just yes, yes, yes. He's amazing. Okay. All right. Thank you.